Do me a favor, write this down. No risk, no story. It's that simple. If you're not willing to take a chance, you don't deserve the story. No risk, no reward. No risk, no legacy. Why not step into something that seems impossible, something that might actually work? Why not you? Are you willing to play at that level, to risk it all in order to gain it all? This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where everything changes. Some say it's worth the wait, but I say it's worth the risk. Because if you won't take the risk, you'll never know what you could have become. I'm not just telling you to go all in, I'm asking you, will you settle for mediocrity for the rest of your life? Or will you dig deep and bring the greatness within you into the world? Will you stay small, or will you bet on yourself and build a life that lasts? No risk, no reward. No risk, no story. No risk, no champion. Now's your moment. What will you do with it? Because the truth is, every defining story begins with a risk, not with certainty, not with applause, but with a trembling step into the unknown. The difference between a life remembered and a life forgotten isn't talent or timing or luck. It's willingness to stand up when you feel small, to speak when your voice shakes, to move forward when every excuse tells you to wait. It's the kind of decision that doesn't come with a guarantee. You don't get to know how it ends. All you know is that something inside of you refuses to let you stay where you are. And that moment when fear and possibility collide, that's where transformation begins. Too often we convince ourselves that staying put is safer, that the job we've outgrown, the relationship we've settled for, the version of ourselves we've learned to tolerate is better than risking the unknown. But what we fail to realize is that there's risk in inaction too, a slower risk, a kidder one. The risk of waking up one day and not recognizing who you've become. The risk of carrying dreams so long they grow heavy and hollow inside your chest. You don't escape risk by standing still. You simply trade one kind of loss for another, the loss of what could have been. Think about the people who move you, the ones who inspire real change, the ones who created beauty, launched movements, built something that mattered. They weren't immune to fear. They didn't have it all mapped out. But they decided to leap anyway. They stepped forward when every voice said don't, and because they did, they wrote stories that didn't just impact their lives, they changed ours too. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman who sat on her dream for years. She was talented, she was kind, but she was terrified. Terrified of what people would say. Terrified of failing. Terrified of being seen. And then one day something shifted. She didn't feel more confident, she just got tired of being silent. So she wrote the post, made the call, and signed her name. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't perfect, but it was her. A year later, she was standing on a stage, not because she had less fear, but because she finally stopped letting fear be the loudest voice in the room. Every time you hesitate to leap, ask yourself this: what is the cost of not trying? What is the price of playing it safe while your soul grows restless? What if the life you ache for, the work you're meant to do, the people you're meant to touch, is waiting just beyond the edge of your comfort? You don't need to see the whole staircase. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to trust the first step. Because risk isn't the enemy, it's the bridge. The story you're meant to tell doesn't begin when everything is certain. It begins the moment you say yes to movement. The moment you decide you won't let fear write your future. So if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Not from the universe, not from a mentor, not from a lucky break, from you. Take the risk, live the story, or stay the same and always wonder what might have been. So you've decided to take the risk. You've stood at the edge and realized that staying the same costs more than stepping forward. But what now? Risk isn't just a one-time leap, it's a decision you renew daily, and that's where change begins. Because risk without change is just chaos. You can jump, but if you land in the same mindset, the same habits, the same limiting beliefs, you'll end up right where you started. That's why this next part matters even more. After the leap, you have to become someone new. Change doesn't come from the outside. It doesn't arrive in the mail or knock on your door. Change begins with you, and it begins the moment you decide that where you are is no longer where you're willing to stay. But let's be honest. Change is uncomfortable. It's supposed to be, you will feel uncertain, you'll question your timing, you'll wonder if you're ready, and you'll never feel like you are. Because transformation doesn't wait for convenience. It waits for conviction. And until you believe that your future matters more than your comfort, nothing will move. Still, people say, I'm scared to make a change, and that's valid. Fear is real, but so is the cost of staying stuck. So ask yourself this: what are you more afraid of, the discomfort of change or the regret of staying exactly the same? Let's build a vision of what staying the same really looks like. You keep the job you hate. You keep the relationship that drains you. You keep waking up tired, bitter, unmotivated, not because you're lazy, but because your soul is starving. You start shrinking. You stop dreaming. A decade passes and you become a stranger to yourself. You're not just older, you're smaller, dimmer kite. That's the price of not changing. Now contrast that with another vision, one where you step into uncertainty, one where you choose to rewrite the story. It doesn't mean things get easier. It means you start taking ownership of the heart. It means you stop being a passive character in your life and become the author. It means growth. And even if it's slow, even if it's messy, it's yours. You don't need to know exactly where you're going. You just need to stop standing still. You need to decide that change is no longer optional. It's necessary. Because if you don't choose the direction of your life, life will choose it for you. And it won't care what you wanted. So start small, if you must. One change, one decision, one action that aligns with who you truly want to become. Because real change isn't a one-time event. It's a series of moments where you stop waiting and start becoming. And the first moment is now. And here's where most people get stuck. They take the risk, they make the change, but then it gets hard and they think something's gone wrong. They think the pain means they made the wrong decision. But pain doesn't mean you're off track. Sometimes pain is the clearest sign that you're finally doing something real. Change hurts. Growth stretches you in ways you didn't expect. You start shedding old identities, relationships, routines, and that's not easy. That's grief. That's fear. That's loneliness. But it's also birth, the birth of who you're becoming. Think about the single mom who decides to go back to school in her 30s. She's exhausted. She works a job, puts her kids to bed, and opens her textbooks while the world sleeps. It's not glamorous. It's not easy. But every page she reads is a brick in the foundation of a life she's rebuilding. Her pain isn't a sign to quit. It's a sign she's rebuilding herself from the ground up. Or the man who finally walks away from a job that's been draining his spirit for years. He doesn't have another one lined up, just a vision he can't ignore anymore. The days feel heavy. His bank account is thin. His doubts scream louder than his faith some mornings. But every time he shows up to build that dream, even in silence, even in fear, he's proving that his future matters more than his past. We have this lie in our culture that if something is right, it will be easy. That if you're on the right path, the road will be smooth. But let me ask you, when in your life have you grown the most? Was it in moments of comfort or in the middle of a storm? The truth is, pain is a teacher. And it's not here to destroy you. It's here to prepare you. The late nights, the rejections, the disappointments, the heartbreak, these aren't detours. They're shaping you. They're sharpening your focus, deepening your resilience, stretching your soul so it can hold the weight of your potential. You don't become stronger by avoiding pain. You become stronger by walking through it. And the powerful thing is, once you've gone through something hard, you can never unlearn that strength. You carry it with you. It becomes part of who you are. So the next time life hurts, don't just ask, why me? Ask, what is this shaping in me? Because on the other side of pain, real pain is wisdom, clarity, strength, and sometimes even peace. The world doesn't need more people who've never been broken. It needs people who've been broken and come back stronger. People who've been through something and chose to let it refine them, not define them. You don't need to run from the pain. You need to face it, use it, and let it forge the version of you that your future is waiting for. Because once you've walked through pain, real pain, you realize something powerful. You don't have to keep living the same story you've been handed. Maybe your past is filled with failure. Maybe people told you who you were, what you were capable of, and you believed them. Maybe you made mistakes that still haunt you or lived through things you didn't deserve. But here's what no one tells you. You don't have to stay in that version of yourself. You are allowed to change the plot. Just because the beginning of your story was written in struggle doesn't mean the ending can't be a triumph. And just because you were once overlooked, underestimated, or afraid doesn't mean that's who you are now. You're not bound by your history. You're free to rewrite it. And the pen is already in your hand. Think about the kid who grew up in a broken home and everyone expected him to follow the same cycle. One day he decides to break it. He gets help. He gets disciplined. He starts surrounding himself with people who believe in his future instead of his past. A few years later, he's mentoring kids who are where he used to be. That's what rewriting looks like. Or the woman who believed for years that she wasn't smart enough, talented enough, worthy enough, because someone once made her feel small. But one day she applies anyway. She speaks up anyway. She says yes anyway. And that yes changes the trajectory of her life. We often wait for a sign that we're ready to begin again. But the truth is, you can start over anytime, not because the past disappears, but because you decide it no longer gets to dictate who you are becoming. Rewriting your story doesn't mean pretending the hard parts didn't happen. It means choosing what those hard parts will mean. You can be a victim of your past, or you can make your past part of your power. You get to decide what chapter comes next. So stop reading the same page over and over and wondering why nothing feels different. Close that chapter, start the next one. Make it bold, make it honest, make it yours. Because the most powerful story you'll ever live is the one you decide to write starting now. You've taken the risk, you've faced the pain, you've chosen to rewrite the story. Now comes the most important part, owning your power. Because what's the point of change if you don't claim it? It's not enough to believe that transformation is possible. You have to believe it's possible for you. That's the real work. Not just learning how to build something new, but unlearning the lie that says you don't deserve it. You are not powerless. You never were. You might have been afraid. You might have been tired. You might have been stuck. But your power has always been there waiting on you to stop asking for permission and start acting with intention. Start by keeping the promises you make to yourself. Every time you say you'll do something and follow through, no matter how small, you train your mind to trust you again. That's how confidence is built, not in one grand gesture, but in hundreds of quiet choices that prove you mean what you say. Get clear about what success looks like for you. Not for your parents, your peers, or your social feed, for you. When you stop chasing other people's definitions, you begin to design a life that feels right in your bones. Take 10 minutes today and write it down. No filters, no pretending. Protect your environment like your future depends on it, because it does. The people, content, and energy you surround yourself with shape your mindset. You can't grow in soil that suffocates your roots. You don't have to cut people off, but you do have to be intentional about what you let in. Take messy, imperfect action. Waiting until you feel ready is just procrastination dressed as strategy. You build confidence by moving. Start the thing, make the call, try and fail, then try again. Clarity comes from motion, not meditation. Owning your power isn't about being loud, it's about being clear. It's knowing what you stand for. It's walking into a room and not shrinking. It's believing you belong without needing someone else to say so. Because once you own your power, you stop outsourcing your life. You stop waiting for permission, applause, or the perfect moment, and you start creating the results you once thought were out of reach. No one's coming to hand you your dream, but you don't need them to. You already have everything it takes. After everything, after the risks you've faced, the pain you've endured, the changes you've made, the power you've reclaimed, it all comes down to this one simple, disarming, undeniable question: why not you? Why not be the one who finally breaks the generational patterns everyone said would never end? Why not be the one who writes a story so bold your future kids will tell it like a legend? Why not be the one who stops apologizing for wanting more, not out of greed, but out of a refusal to live small? We live in a world that constantly convinces you to wait until you're qualified, wait until you're more confident, wait until you're not scared. But confidence doesn't come before action, it comes from it. You don't wake up fearless. You build your courage step by step. Somewhere along the line, you started believing you weren't ready, that you needed more time, more permission, more proof. But the truth is, you're more prepared than you think, not because everything's perfect, but because you've already been through more than you give yourself credit for. Think about it. Everything you've survived up to this point was preparation. Every setback gave you resilience. Every heartbreak carved out a deeper capacity to love. Every failure taught you what you're really made of. You've been in training your entire life, you just didn't know the test was coming now. And now that it's here, you're looking around at everyone else wondering if you belong. You're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. But let me ask you something: who made you believe that greatness belonged to someone else who taught you to settle? Maybe it was a teacher who underestimated you. Maybe it was a parent who never saw your light. Maybe it was a moment, a failure, a rejection, a wound that made you tuck your dreams into the back of the drawer and forget they were even yours. But you're not a child anymore. You don't need their approval. You don't need their validation. You need one thing: a decision. A decision to stop playing small. A decision to stop explaining your potential away. A decision to walk into rooms like you deserve to be there because you do. You're not asking for special treatment. You're just done living beneath your potential. You're done waiting to feel ready. You're done settling for stories that were never yours in the first place. And even if you're scared, do it scared. Even if you don't have all the answers, begin anyway. Even if it's messy, let it be messy and magnificent at the same time. Because you know what's worse than failing? Never finding out what you were capable of. Waking up years from now haunted not by the chances you took, but the ones you didn't. The version of you that could have existed but never did, because you never gave yourself the chance. There is someone out there right now looking for proof that it's possible. They're hoping someone like them can win, can rise, can lead. Be that proof. Be the one who stepped up, who tried, who stumbled, who rose anyway. Be the one who left nothing on the table, who faced the fear, who changed the ending. Because the truth is, you've always had it in you. So stop waiting, stop hiding. And this time, when the question comes, when the world looks at you and asks why not you, you answer, not with hesitation, but with action. It is me. It's always been me. So now, you know that risk is the price of the story you're meant to live. That pain isn't your punishment, it's your teacher. That change doesn't wait for permission, it begins with you. And that power, it's never left you. It's been there quiet but constant, waiting for you to pick it up and say, I'm ready. But here's the thing, knowing isn't enough. Knowledge will stir your spirit, but only action will change your life. Because most people will hear words like these and feel a spark for a moment, then let it fade. They'll nod their heads and go back to what's familiar, back to fear, back to silence. But I don't believe that's you. I believe you're here because something inside you refuses to settle. Something inside you knows there's more. More than survival. More than going through the motions. More than shrinking to fit a life that was never designed for the full size of your spirit. You felt it, haven't you? That quiet ache that whispers at the edges of your day. The one that says, this isn't all there is. The one that shows up when you're alone and honest and brave enough to listen. That's not doubt. That's your calling. That's your fire still alive under the ashes of disappointment and delay. And it's not too late. You're not too far gone. You haven't missed your moment, you've arrived at it. You don't have to know how the story ends, you just need to turn the page. You don't have to have it all together, you just have to be willing to begin. Not with perfection, but with courage. Not with guarantees, but with trust. Not with a roadmap, but with your bare feet and your brave heart. Because this life, your life, is not a rehearsal. There is no dress rehearsal for purpose. No second run at becoming who you were born to be. This is it. This is your time. This is your shot. So leap, even if your knees shake. Speak even if your voice trembles. Stand even if it's been easier to sit down and stay small. Because this world doesn't need more people playing it safe. It needs people on fire with their truth. Write the next chapter even if the last one nearly broke you. Own the struggle. Not as shame, but as evidence that you're still here, still trying. Claim your voice and speak like someone who finally knows their worth. Live the kind of story that makes people stop and remember who they are. This is your moment. This is your beginning. This is your invitation to become. Before I go, I just want to say thank you truly. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. And thank you for carrying your story, your scars, and your hope into this moment with me. I don't know what your journey looks like from here, but I believe in you. I believe in your fight, your future, your fire. And whatever comes next for you, I hope it's bold. I hope it's true. I hope it's yours. So go now. Stand tall. Live loud. And never forget, this is your moment. This is your time. And yes, it can be you. Why not you?